Trading the foreign exchange market carries high risk and may not be suitable for all investors. Trading on margin, utilizing leverage can carry an even higher level of risk that can lead to a complete loss of investment funds. So before deciding to trade the foreign exchange market or using any of our software alert products, you should carefully and diligently consider your personal investment objectives, level of experience, and risk tolerance. There is a possibility that you could potentially sustain significant loss. You should not invest any capital or trade that you cannot afford to lose. It is your responsibility to be aware of and understand all risks associated with foreign exchange trading and to seek professional advice from an independent certified financial advisor if you have any doubts. Auvoria Prime does not exercise trading authority over your trades. You and you alone exercise discretionary trading authority over every trade.
I think I should be able to switch back and forth with this, but right now, Monday, we do have a red folder at 10:30 with the Bank of England Governor Bailey speaks at 10:30. Other than that, it's pretty quiet for the rest of the day. Mondays are usually pretty quiet days. I usually look at Mondays as being days that the market's starting to set its positions for the week. And so I'm not in a big hurry to take trades on Monday. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday are my better days, my bigger days that I use. Oh, also here it does say that today is a banking holiday for the Canadian dollar. So there may be limited banking involvement with any of those pairs. People like us will be trading it, but we may not be getting quite the push with it because if the banks are closed, they're not going to be driving the market very much. Let's see what else we have here. We should have my splash screen up, but maybe I lost that over the night. Let me see. Let me get my splash screen up. Oh, here, trading view. And this will be my, just start this up entirely here. Actually, I may have another window here. Let me see. There we go. I thought I had it. Now you should see the heat map. Is that right, Eva?
Yes,
Christine?
heat map, yeah.
Okay. All right, so far so good. All right. We're gonna look and see what's strong, what's weak today. Remember, the Canadian dollar is on banking holiday, so there may not be a lot of involvement with that, but we'll still keep watching it. Right now, I'm showing that the euro is the strongest pair. The New Zealand dollar is the strongest. Of the top three, I have the euro and New Zealand dollar, and I guess we'll throw the Canadian dollar in there. US dollar is strong on the 5-minute, but that's probably more of a pullback than the direction. I usually look at these two in the gray background boxes. Those are my two that I'm looking at primarily. And again, we're looking at the euro and New Zealand as being strong, and looks like the Aussie and British are weak. So we're probably still within their time frame. They're probably winding down for the day, but we're just going to keep that in mind as we proceed on. Let's go to the arrow charts. Let's see. Put this one up, and now you should see the arrow charts. And all right, I'm getting better at this.
There you go.
All right, so right now I'm not seeing a 5-minute. Let's just check these all. I've got to break these down in different sections here. I'm looking for a 15-minute on something here. Nothing 15 minutes, so we're going to go with the New Zealand, Swiss. We were saying that the New Zealand was strong. So let's take a look at the New Zealand Swiss there. And where's the why did that dot come to? I'll put the template on. And they're going to know what the problem with that is. Okay, we do have a New Zealand Swiss 5-minute chart. Remember, on the 5-minute chart, your ranges are going to be a lot tighter, pretty much, between the zones. And right now we're looking at a zone range between, here's the alert right at this candle. That's only 7 pips to the upside. We're looking, if you do the straight arrow strategy, looking at 20 pips to your target zone. This is when you only have 7. That's not even enough for me to take the trade with the tighter stops and the, I usually like to see 15. So this is really not much of a trade, although it is, we have all of our moving averages moving in the right direction. Let's just see where the overall direction of this chart is. The overall direction, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 red zones. It tells me it's pretty much in a downtrend. The fact that this purple line, which is the 200 moving average, is starting to curl, makes me think it may be the end of the range, and we may be looking at a retracement. or a contra trend trade possibility. The only thing I don't like about it is I don't like the target zone is only from, here is the arrow. We'll draw a line on that. That's it right here. That would be the, this would be the entry of where the arrow alert was if you got right on the entry line. And, but you'd be looking at only 7 pips from here to here. You're only looking at 7 pips. And we have a spread, the New Zealand Swiss, the spread is 1.4. You'll be losing about three pips just on the spread. The best you'd probably do is 4 pips. And just, it's a low probability trade for the risk reward on it. So we'll pass on that. If you have any questions, please use the question answer box. That way Eva and Christine can keep an eye on that to help guide me. I don't, usually if I pull the box up, all you do is see a big old square in the middle of my screen, and it doesn't do anybody any good. So put them in the question answer box, and we'll try and get to them as we go along here today. Let's see. Now, one question I would have to ask myself is why is that coming up like that? And if you have a problem with the dashboard coming up, check your settings on your dashboard with the expert advisor properties. Go to your about settings, make sure you have the right version on. Go to your common tab, make sure these are checked. And more importantly, when you don't get the arrow alert coming up, it makes me think that there's probably a little setting down here that says where it says default templates for new charts. This needs to be capitalized with arrow. So just type AIRO on here. Click OK, and then that should load the charts to where now when you click on the button, it pulls up the charts. If anybody has that problem at all, which I just did, but now I just fixed it. Questions? I know someone's going to be asking me about gold and someone's going to be asking me about cryptos. So right now there's no alerts that I can speak of. Here was the New Zealand Swiss. I checked this one out earlier. Again, the range is a little bit tight. I'm on a 5-minute chart. This on a 15-minute chart. Well, the alert came in on a 5-minute chart, and this is the same type of situation we had with the New Zealand Swiss. There's only a few pips. That's only 4 pips to the zone before we're going to be running into problems. Again, moving averages are in the correct direction. We have a green, yellow, blue, and purple, all in the right order, heading to the upside. But the target zone is still pretty tight, and we're only looking at, again, this is the, actually it was both the New Zealand Swiss. I only did that twice here. Let me take this one off. And it's Aussie US. I was looking at that one earlier. Here's a down arrow. Here's the zone 5-minute chart. Again, looking where the arrow was to the zone, 7, 8 pips. We are getting a little bit of a pullback. I'm not really too keen on this one. When we draw the Fibonacci's, we like to draw, I like to use a 15-minute chart and find the zones on the 15-minute. This zone from here to here. Let's see what the range is on that. And that's 35 pips. That's about as tight as you'd want it to get, but you're also going very deep into the screen zone. But if we were to draw the Fibonacci's, we can put it on here and take a quick look at it. I'm going to go to my template. Go to my template. This is where I have all my moving averages loaded. You can see here's my 200 moving average. You see it came out, it was in some of a downtrend, came up, tested the 200 moving average, and it had a nice drop, came back and retested where all the other moving averages were consolidating. This is heading in the down direction. Now the question is, can it break through this zone? This zone could possibly be breached, but then you'd be looking at this one right below it. If I were to be looking at a Fibonacci range, I'll go with the stronger move and see where the prices are in between the 2 pivot points. So I'd be using this range. I'll just go ahead and draw this one out just for practice. Here's the top of the range. Here's the bottom of the range. Here's my Fibonacci zone. That's my main directional, and I'm going to be looking to see where my target zones are going to be. My target zones are going to be the 61, 50, and 38. We'll mark those off. Once I get these marked off, then I can remove this one and redraw the Fibonacci on the lower time frame. Mark those. And I'm going to take the top 25%, which is actually the top, well, in this case, it's showing the 76.4, the top three lines right here. This makes the top 25% of the move. Here's the bottom 25% of the move. That's for all the new folks that may be coming in here. Here's my range. Here's my, that's my supply zone. This is my demand zone for this last move. Drawing the lower 25%. So you got to get this thing down a little bit lower still. That Fibonacci wasn't quite on the spot here. Down just a little bit there. I'll take some, bring this down to the top 25, lower 25 right here. That's close enough. Now I have that my zones are set. And I can remove this Fibonacci. Come over here to the objects, find the Fibonacci, delete it. And now I'm going to go to a lower time frame. And I'm going to draw it from the opposite direction. Now I'm going to be looking to see where these targets are. Now, the thing I don't like about this right now, it's already broken through this bottom one. It came up, it was up here at the top, broke down, came back up, tested. It's still having, right now it's in the middle, but I like this move here and I like this retracement. The thing I don't like is the fact this thing already broke through the 61% of this retracement. From this move here, it already came down to 61%. If I draw my fibs from here to here, and actually I'll take that back. What I would be doing, since I drew the main fibs from here down to here, I would take it from this one to here, and I'm looking for the retracement. So I'm gonna take it from where here's where it broke the, it came down, and would have liked to have seen this one. If this thing would have gone up a little bit closer, a little bit higher, I'd feel more comfortable with it. But right now, it only went right up into the middle, broke out, coming back up the middle. Right now, it's still kind of stuck in this range. I don't want to be playing in this. I like to see it break out of this blue zone, come back up, retest the blue zone, and then break through where it starts going through these different lines. So right now, this isn't really much of a trade that I like. Again, these things are just getting set up for the week. Take us into a higher time frame. Here's the low. If I can get this fib over here. Here, right here to the top. This is where it broke out of the zone. Take this where it came back into the zone. We still have our heavier blue lines that we're looking at. This is a retracer. So right now, from this move to here, it retraced back 50%. And it's coming up and retesting this. If it can turn around and come back around on the 1 minute, if this green line, green moving average can come back and cross over the yellow, but still we're going to be right down here in this lower 25. It's just going to be really tight. By the time we broke through there, this would be the target area down in this area. But right now, I don't think we have enough momentum. Aussie US, check our pair to see where the strength is. And the Aussie is strong to the US, but it's not real strong. It's kind of hanging right there. The Aussie and US, right in the middle. Here's your top two. Here's your bottom two. Actually, here's your top two, the Euro, the New Zealand, the Euro, the Swiss. This keeps flipping around. I want to stay out of the ones that are right here in the middle of these 8 pairs. I want to stay away from the ones in the middle. There's too much indecisiveness. I'd rather trade the top 3 with the bottom against the bottom 3. And so right now we don't have a real trade there. It just doesn't give me the spread and the strength to take that trade. So again, we'll stay away from that. There's too many good trades to take marginal trades. Any questions about what we've done so far?
No questions at all.
Quiet group. It's a Monday morning.
Early and it's Monday, so.
Mondays are just kind of slow in general. Let's see. What we got. I know someone's going to be asking about crypto. So while we're waiting for things to set up, then people are going to say, what should we do about the cryptos? Look at the Ethereum. And the cryptos took a pretty big hit over the weekend. Now the question is, what do we do with that? And it's probably, let me take a little poll. How many people are trading cryptos or liking cryptos? What is the sentiment of the cryptos in our group here? I kind of like this. If you could give me the report on that, Eva or Christine.
Yeah, will do.
Like I said, the cryptos took a pretty big hit. The Ethereum was, I mean, it was all the way up here at 45. It came all the way back down. It lost about 50% of its move. The move was, you can see the move that really made was a really strong move in the last couple of days.
I have a couple of answers for you. Excuse me, Al. I've got a couple of answers.
Okay.
A couple of people love Bitcoin. They're trading Bitcoin. Another one, anonymous, love cryptos. So I think there's a big following with cryptos.
Yeah.
Some stay away from it though. But
there's a lot of controversy. I mean, if you can pretty much pick up any news source, and you'll find some people are saying cryptos are done. Other people say now's a buying opportunity. And I think it really depends on what your sentiment is on what the cryptos role is in the future. And nobody really knows that for sure, but there's a lot of sentiment saying that if we had bought Google back when Google first came out, and it was very volatile, and but if you had bought those shares early on, just held on to them for 5 or 10 years, would be retired by now. I think a lot of the sentiment is with cryptos, it's going to be the same type of thing. It's going to be very volatile. They're going to be all over the place. Yes, it would have been nice to have been taking the profits that we made over the last couple of days or weeks when it was already at the top, and wait for the pullback and buy it back in again. But problem is you never know where the tops are. When that makes new highs, you never know if it's going to make higher highs. So the sentiment with the cryptos is you have to decide, are you in it for the long haul, or are you in it for trading it? If you're in it for scalping and trading, you'll take one method of using it. If you're going to be looking at it to buy and hold for the long duration, that's a whole nother method and technique. Neither one is right, neither one is wrong. It's just a matter of what your personal preference is. And I can't voice, I have my opinions, but I'm not going to voice my opinions on it. Other than the fact, I do think that they have a place in our future. I just don't know exactly where that's going to be or how I'm going to approach it.
well, I read something on, I guess it was Google News, Google Finance yesterday. Apparently Bitcoin, they're predicting that by October, it's going to be worth 307,000 and 12.5 million in 10 years. Per coin. So
that's Bitcoin.
Wow.
That's Bitcoin, yeah.
So 60,000 for Bitcoin, which is where Bitcoin was. The high was 60,000 on Bitcoin.
They're saying now 307,000 by this October.
Yeah. So do you want to believe that? That's your own personal choice, your own ideas of the people that say these things. Are they on target, or are they just trying to make an opinion to see if they can be right or wrong? I don't know the answer. I do believe there's some people that I do follow with the cryptos, and I tend to follow what they say because they seem to be right all along. So, but here's Bitcoin. It says all the way up here is 64,000, pulled back to 30. So right now it gave up about 50% of its profit within. Now I'm on I'm on a weekly chart. So from here's where it started right back in. This was October of last year is where it really started making the move. This you could basically say this is the first launch. Here's the first big move up, pulled back. Let's draw Fibonacci on this one just for practice and education purposes here. Here's a little basing here, and here's where it launched, right from this point on up. And you can see that from right now, where it is right now, it's right at the lower 25%, which is what we talked about. And this is on a much grander scale, but the higher the time frame, the more significant these things are. You can see how this thing came right down and tagged right here. This was, and I didn't draw this before. This is just from where I drew where the first launch was, came back. If I took it just from here from this point to where the first pullback was.
I actually drew it out this morning from the red candle, right where the arrow is. And it's 50% at that point, or just over 50% retrace.
You did from right down here?
The red candle. The red candle.
This one here.
Point. The lowest point.
Oh, the lowest red point.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so we draw. We'll use what. So from this point to here, came back down. It came back to the 38%, and it took off. And this one came down to 38%. You can see where it came back up, hit the 38, hit the 50, tagged up. Didn't quite make the 62, and a retrace. If you take this full move this one up to here, now you see right now it came back from the very low to the high, came back into our 50-60% zone. If I put the moving averages up on this, you can see where the moving averages are. They're still in the right direction. We did get the green crossing over the yellow. And it did come in and it bounced right off the 62% exponential moving average, which was pretty much close to where that 62, where the Fibonacci was. Now this is all the way back in, this is back in February of last year. I'm going to use the one, I still kind of like this one here myself. I like where it first launched. Here is it, well, actually pretty much launched right in this area here. You see where it kind of tested the blue moving average. We can take it from that one. That's the real compromise between what Eva did and what I'd like to do. Neither one is wrong. Neither one is right. It's just what works, what seems to work the best for you and what makes sense to you. Anyway, this comes right down from here. It came right down to the 61% off of this strong move up, and everything's still up. And could it break through here and come down lower? It sure could. But I think this big retracement I think this would be a buying opportunity off of here. And if it does come up and take out this area, then we would be looking, if I can even get it in that far here. You go to a monthly chart. Yeah.
Al, did you say that you're following anybody on cryptos? The question is, can you share the people that you're following for cryptos?
One of the guys I do follow a lot is called Tika Tawari. I'm not sure how to spell that, but I've been listening to him for a couple of years now with the cryptos, and he talked about the cryptos way back about 5 years ago, and he's been pretty much on track with what's going on with it. He's pretty optimistic about it. That's one guy I do, and the other one is Matt McCall is another guy that I follow. You can just Google both of them, and Matt McCall has a newsletter out. Actually, Tika Tuori has a newsletter out also that he puts out on a regular basis. You can get on their email list and get their messages.
What was his name? Tika Atari?
Let me see if I can find it here. Let me see if
I can spell Tika because I know what.
Yeah.
Last name.
Yeah. This is let me see if I can find it here. Hang on. It's in one of my emails.
Just want to put it in the chat.
I don't see. I don't have my emails up. I'll do it. I will.
Well, just pronounce it, and I'll do my best for now, just to put it in the chat so they can kind of Google it. It'll pop up proper anyway for them if they're close.
Yeah, I'm not even sure how to spell it. He's.
Well, what is the last?
I don't even want to try and attempt to butcher it.
No, but you just said the last name before. Can you just?
I think it's Tawari, TIAKWA or something like that. Here, maybe I can find it here. Hang on, let me check my phone.
Put Tika T, and they'll bring it up, and with crypto, Google Tika T cryptos and see what pops up for you. I'll try that in the meantime, but Al, you carry on.
Well, hang on, I need to get my other source here, which is not on my laptop. If I can find it here for you.
Okay. And Mark McCall, you said, right?
Matt McCall.
Oh, Matt McCall.
Matt McCall.
Okay. Sorry, I don't want to interrupt. I just want to put it in
No,
case people want to Google.
No, that's fine. We need to do what we can to get the information out there for people that. Just give me 1 second here.
Okay, I've just put their names in the chat for anybody that wants to Google it, since we don't know.
Okay, here it is. TEEKA. That's Tika.
Oh, okay.
And then TIWARI.
TIWARI.
Right, and that's he's listed with Palm Beach Daily. I think is about that would be the information. That's where you'd find him. If you Google that, they should get it. It should come on up. Yeah, Tika Tawari, Palm Beach Daily.
Okay.
He has a newsletter out, and he gives some information there. He's been he's one of the what I call one of the gurus of cryptos. He's been following it for a lot of times, and so anyway, that's enough about that.
Thank you.
And let's see here. What do we got? This is the anyway. Bitcoin, as you see right now, Bitcoin from a higher time frame, from the somewhat of its history, from where the last big spike came up, it retraced 61%. It still has. I'm thinking the next target is going to be probably, if it does break through, it's probably going to be hitting this of the 49,000, 50,000 mark. Probably come back, retest, but eventually it's going to probably go back. But it could take a few months. I'm on a 4-hour chart here. Actually, I drew this off of a weekly chart, so it's not going to happen overnight, more than likely, although it could. But I would say this is for people that like cryptos. This would be a buying opportunity as to being one to start bailing on it. If you got in late, you're probably a little nervous about the outcome if you bought it up at that 60,000 mark. But again, as we are in these rooms, what we try to do is we try to train people to buy on the pullbacks, not on the breakouts. I have not had much luck with being a breakout trader. I usually wait for it to break out and then pull back and then try and get back in after it made its highs or lows, and then take it from there. So that's just a little tidbit. Let's see what else can we. Right now, we're not looking at any trades. New Zealand CAD. Let's take a look at that one. See if there's anything there. That's up in the zone. Now's a good time for some questions. Like I said, it's kind of slow. Mondays are kind of slow. I don't take a lot of trades. I mean, I will take trades on Monday, but they've got to be pretty good setups before I do. There's enough room during the week. You don't need it. All you need is a couple good trades a week, and you've got your targets for the week. So don't be in a hurry. A lot of these are still kind of. I like looking at 15-minute charts primarily, mainly because it gives me a little bit more room for the Fibonacci, for the bigger move down. I'm always looking for the big move down, looking for where my zones are, and then looking for the retracements back to where the origin of the big down move or up move is. I like seeing the angle. I haven't seen it. This is like a strong move down. This is not a very strong. This is a sort of like a very casual, lazy river type of a retracement back into the zone. But if you go from here to here, let's put on a 15-minute chart. So I usually like looking at my Fibonacci's, starting with the 15-minute chart. Here's the origin of the move, came back down, made a new low. I like this zone. It did break through. I'm not sure why this one's still here, but I do like this move from here to here. I would be drawing the Fibonacci from, I would be drawing it from this high to this low and looking for the lower 25. But first, before I do that, I'm going to get my moving averages in. Look the template. And let's see if I can scrunch this up a little bit here. Sometimes TradingView or this MT4 doesn't give you the flexibility and the precision that I would like easily. Okay, this is the move I'm looking at. Look see how nice and straight this is. There's not much of an angle to it, just a straight drop. And now start angling back. Here is the low, came out, came back in, made a new low. So actually we can almost go over with this one here. This was a little bit of a divergence that we had, but this green zone's holding pretty strong. And we have the moving average is strong. So this is the down move. Now we're looking for where it's going to retrace and how strong is it going to be. Here's my upper 25%. I'm going to mark it from this is Sunday's range right here. It's Sunday, Monday. Go to the bottom. Include all of this over to here. There's that range. Here's my 61%. Here's my 50, which is right about where it is right now. 50s are very significant. Here's my 38. Come back in to get my objects list, get rid of that Fibonacci that I drew. I still have my lines, still have my zones, and now I'm going to be looking for this up move. So I'm going to expand this out a little bit. But you see, like right now, it came out, came back in, made a pivot, and that was a pretty steep retreat. That was nice move out of this 25% zone, came back in, didn't go real deep on this one. And if I drew a trend line from this low to here, you can see it actually broke that trend line on this down move. But now, right now, so it broke the trend line. Now it's coming up, retesting this trend line. We have a flat top up here. So I'm going to draw that one. Here's our wedge. Here's a high, a lower high, or excuse me, here's a low, here's a high, higher low, barely lower high, almost equal high there. Broke the trend line, broke it. Now it's coming back to retest the wedge, and it's also retesting this trend line. If this trend line holds, then it's looking to make it to come on down to the lower side. It broke through the first blue line. It's broke through the second blue line, pulled back. Now it's trying to break through the second. But right now, I'd be looking at this as being the area where it's going to maybe bounce and retest either this blue line or this orange. Right now, it's still trying to figure that one out. We look through the New Zealand CAD, come over to our heat map, and look at New Zealand CAD. Here's New Zealand. Here's the CAD. Remember, the Canadian dollar is on banking holiday today. So again, you may want to be aware of that. Over here, the Canadian dollar is right in the middle. New Zealand's still strong on most of the time frames, but the Canadian dollar, we have our 3-point spread here. We have a 5-point spread here, but you're not going to get the banks to be pushing that up. So that's something to be made aware of. And with the Canadian dollar the New Zealand dollar being a little bit stronger than the Canadian dollar, that's one reason why I'm seeing this thing coming up. I don't think it's going to have a lot of push initially to break through here. And once it does break through this point, it's back into the wedge, then the target is going to be up here, and you're only looking at 8 pip target till you get to your blue zone, or 21 pips. 21 pips to the red zone would be okay, but you're going to have to get through this blue zone first. So again, I'm staying away from that one. Let's see, what else do we have here? Here's the British Swiss 30-minute. Any questions, comments? Mondays and Fridays are good days for questions and explanation. We have a lot of new people in here, so even though we may have gone over it before, don't be afraid to ask it again for clarification if you're still a little confused about something. There's a nice little trend line here. And here's a low, here's a lower. This is pretty much an equal low. Actually, it broke a little bit, closed here. This one closed below this pivot. This one closed lower, so that we have like a descending trend on this. It's coming right into a blue zone. We'll see what happens. It could get a breakthrough bounce and come back in. This could just be, we're not sure where it's breaking through. You got to bounce off of the 61% of the down move. This thing could start to be retracing back again. Right now, our moving averages on the 30-minute. Let's see what they are on the 5-minute here. Moving averages are still pointing in the right direction. Here's the 200, here's the 62, here's the arrow, the 13 and the 5. Everything's in the right direction, but you have this nice pesky little green zone, plus you have this trend line down here. I will be looking at it too. If this trend is strong, it's going to break through this trend line, but there's a 1-minute euro yen. What's that one? That was a little while ago. Yeah, last one here, this was a 1-minute euro Aussie US. We can take a look at it. 1-minute charts. I'm not too anxious to take trades off the 1 minute. I like 1 minute once I'm already trying to get into a trade for confirmation in the direction. I generally won't take them off a 1-minute chart. Let's see.
I have a question for you, Al, regarding the pound. Any idea why the pound pairs are weak as they're normally strong? Has there been any like news or anything that is making them weak now?
There wasn't any news on the, I don't think there was any news on the pound. The pounds are weak right now. That's just a normal cycle. They'll go from weak to strong. The U.S. will go weak to strong. The pound, the euro, and the U.S. are some of the ones I like to trade, especially during this session. They get pullbacks. There's no real reason. There's no news that I saw that would indicate why it would be doing that. It is what it is. Let's see, British Swiss. Let's go to if it can get through this little green zone and break, it could go possibly lower and start retesting this demand zone back here, down here, from here to here. That's 40 pips. That's quite a bit on the 5-minute chart. That's a pretty big. And there's no zones on the 5. Anything below that. If it can break through that, I would say with the pound being weak to the, let's see, was the pound weak to the Swiss? Let's see, where was it to the Swiss? Pound is weak to the Swiss is relatively strong. If it breaks through that little green zone, we could possibly have a trade there. But I need to see a break through this little trend. This was a nice little move down. Didn't really stop. This is the first, really, from here to here. This is really the first pullback. This would be encouraging for this thing to continue the down move. Pull back to 38%. If it can break through here and close down, then we may have a trade. I would probably still only go to pull back to the close. It couldn't break the 38, so the target would be the 23. So the target would be probably somewhere in, I'd probably mark the target using this zone and just move this zone up a little bit. I don't have the 23 marked here, but I'd be looking at pretty much this area. If it breaks through here, I'd be looking at this area right in here. And that would be 11. You could maybe eke 15 pips out to this point right here if it breaks. Let's go to a 1-minute chart and see if we did get the crossover. Had this green one came back up, crossed over, and we might have everything in the right direction on the 1 minute. Nope, it's crossing back over again. Here's the next pullback. Let me take this fib off. Redraw this on the 1 minute. Mark that trend line right to here. When you get to the 1 minute charts, you can redraw it. I mean, as you go to lower time frames, you can redraw those lines because they'll be off by the spread of the not the spread, but the from the time difference between where I marked it on the 15 minute, it'd be a 15 candle difference. This thing came up, pulled back. So I still don't like this little green zone right here. Here's a move down. The green moving average came up, couldn't cross over the yellow. Now it's starting to pull back down again. We do have the strength to the Swiss, to the British pound. And if we can get this thing to break through here, I may be willing to take a shot at it down to this blue area. But we have this range, this little zone right here, plus you have the trend line. Not overly thrilled about it. But we'll keep an eye on this one.
Now, a quick question for you. On your dashboard, underneath the time frames, you have numbers that are moving. What are those? Do you know?
These
on the dashboard. On the dashboard.
Oh, on the dashboard.
Under the time frame.
Under the
under the time frame. M1, M5, M15. What are these numbers below it?
Yeah, these are how many seconds are left before the candle closes.
Okay. So like 400.04.
See, that's a good, before it used to just be I'm not sure why it's saying 300, but generally was speaking what it used to be, that was how many seconds before the candle closed, that 1 minute candle closed. I would ignore the 200 on that. I really would, but I'm thinking right now it's got, this 5 minute has 4 minutes till it closes. The 15 has 14 minutes, which would make sense. There's 10 minute difference. So basically, what time is it right now? Right now it's 15 minutes past the hour. So in another 15 minutes, I just go by these last two numbers here. I wouldn't worry about the 500. I have no idea what that is. But right now I'm seeing, like on a 5 minute chart, you've got 3 minutes before the 5 minute candle closes. The 1 minute candle just closed. That just closed, and now that's got about another 50 some seconds. 3 minutes left on the 5 minute, 13 minutes left on the 15, 13. So in another 13 minutes, you're going to have a 5 minute, a 15 minute, and a 30 minute candle all closing at the same time, because they'll be closing in on the half hour. Okay. I would just look at those last two numbers for that. That's basically what those are. Where the 180 and 500 and all that came from, I have no idea.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. I also have a request when you're finished with this. If we don't have a 15-minute alert or whatever, could you please analyze the pound CAD as well?
Pound CAD. Do I have that one up in here? Pound CAD, 15 minutes. Here we go. Full time. But the moving averages up.
It appears Piat is stuck in a buy.
Stuck in a buy on the pound CAD.
From last week, yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, let's see.
She only wants the news if it's positive, she says.
Well, I guess the good news is it probably won't do a whole lot today because the Canadian dollar is on holiday. That may help.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Here's a strong move down. Here's the, so that she probably got bought off of this bounce here, I'm going to guess. Well, I would be looking at it from this point down to here. Now this is on a 4-hour time frame. See what it looks like on a 1 hour. 1 hour is really tight. All these range here, these little white dotted lines, those are all day breaks. So this is the beginning of Sunday's range right here, Sunday. This is the end of Monday. Sunday and Monday are kind of together. Sunday's only like 3 hours wide, but this is the range. It's been in this range since the 18th, which was last Tuesday, Wednesday, I guess.
She says she got in it at the 1.71066.
1.7106-ish.
66, yeah.
$1.7106. 06. You got to buy on that.
Yeah.
On
the 15 minute. On the 15 minute she got in.
Okay, so you got in on a buy there.
Right at the top, it looks like.
Yeah, it looks like it, right there at the top of that move. So looking at this, so basically this was what you got in on Friday. Did she get in on Friday?
Was it Friday? She said last week. So yes, Friday.
Yeah, that's why I don't trade on Fridays. This was a nice little move down. It kind of, let me get to a higher time frame here, see what it looked like before. I can see that looking at, if this was Friday and it came right up to, I would probably be, during Friday, I probably would have been looking at this move on Friday. That's the 4-hour chart. But this is the higher time frame this is the bigger move from the whole week, last week. This is probably where the fact that you took it on Friday, you'd have to look and see what it did for the week and see where it was coming back up again. And came right up to the 38% in the pullback. Well, I don't think it could very well, I would probably hang into it right now. Hopefully you're not in too big of a position where you get too big a drawdown. But I would be looking at right now, it's bouncing off this lower 25% of this big move. So I'm going to be looking at this 25%. Take it from here. So now this is what this one. This is going to be on the 30th. We'll see how many days out that is. That's only 4 days. That's 10 days away. I'd probably be looking at this. May want to hang into this as a swing trade. This would be the upper zone. If it can start breaking through, if it can break through this red zone, it's probably going to come on up and retest. But right now you've got this moving average that's going to be kind of in the way. Go to a lower time frame for the 15-minute. If I expand this out some. I like the fact it bounced off of this 23%. What you're probably going to be looking at is you've got this was the overnight move right here. You do have this section right in here that's not too bad. Here's where you entered. I'm gonna make this a different color just so we don't lose place of what that one is. I'll make this one just go green because you went long on it. Get my other zones in here. Move that into there. There's the 38%. And that's 1 minute charts on the British Swiss. Now this one here. These are our zones that we're looking at, one of the higher time frame zones. And then we're back up to our upper 25%. So this is the area that we're looking at this thing to be coming through. And this thing's, I think, if you can stand the heat in the oven, it's I think you'll be all right off this bounce. This is early Sunday. Here's the Monday first retracement. Now it's probably getting positions. It could very well go on up and to retest. It's going to have to break through some major zones here first on the way up. It's going to have, actually, once it breaks through this one, you'll be back to break even as it tests this zone up here. So that's probably, how many pips do we have here on this? Now, you're 30 pips steep. If you got in here, if you used a 40 pip stop, you probably would have gotten stopped out. So from a back, this could be like a bank induction. Here's a down arrow coming into a green zone, came back out, came back in, tested it. Now we're getting the break. It's testing the arrow moving average. You may get another pullback still into this area. It tagged the 30 of the lower 25. It tagged it, coming back up. It's still got a ways to go to get to the 38. This is probably the down move, the closer in down move you're looking at, which was the overnight. This is today's move right here. Strong move down, coming back up. Now the question is this move on this one, what's that going to do to us? It came back down, strong move down, pulled back 23%. We're on what time frame are we on here? 15-minute. This is for a day trading, scalping type of trade. This is a little better picture for us, where it came out of the lower 25. Let me expand this out some. It came out of the lower 25. I'll draw that one out. I'm just going to take it from here. It's probably going to come up. It's probably going to tag this and come back and retest. If we can get a nice little retest back to the 20 into the 23, somewhere between the 23 and this 11.8, if we can get a trend line to be hit, it would be the anchor. If it can come back and retest this trend line somewhere along here, retest and then bounce out back out of the 23, you might be okay to be able to start taking. Maybe you might take another position, possibly with off that pullback to dollar cost average down, kind of like what Gearbox does and what Variable does. So it could come back out, retest the. Now start. Okay, now it's starting to cross over this 38. So that's a nice move. Come back down. Wait for it to redraw the fibs. Need to delete this one. I'm going to mark these zones here. I'm just going to mark one zone. I'm just going to use this 61 just so because I have too many. I'm just mark this little zone right here. It's coming up into that area. So if it can go up, test that. Take this fib off and redraw it on the other direction. Let's go to a 5-minute chart. And now I'm looking at, this move up. Let's see if I can just get the ray off of this. Gonna wait for it to pull back to retest this. It's right at the 11%. That's about halfway between the 23 and where the 0 was. This is a good spot to be looking at. But we don't know where this thing's going to stop, but it looks like it's already trying to. Pulls back pulls back into this area, and then we may get another shot up to probably up around in here. But once it pulls back, if it stays within this blue zone and pulls back, wait for the next curl of on the 1 minute, look for that green to curl back over the yellow. Right now, these are all going in the up direction. You don't want to be taking it short yet or adding on to your position yet. Let's see, let's go to a 1 minute chart here. You can see how this thing came back down. The green, here's where it crossed over. It crossed over the yellow. Here's your trend line. Here's your anchor. Here's your near hit. Here's your hit. Here's a hit. Comes back down. Looking for it to break through this trend, come back down, retest this. Right now, it's still heading in the up direction. So at least it's working in your favor right now. Right now, you're still okay. As long as this green can stay above the yellow on this 1 minute chart, especially even on the 5 minute. And we have it on the 5 minute. So everything's moving in the right direction on the 5 minute. I would expect it's probably going to get a bounce off of this, either this line here or this moving average. It's still not going to, you'll still be underwater with the trade, but you're not going to be getting, if you're going to bail in the trade, I'd wait till it bounces off of that. That's about all I can say about that one. Kind of got caught in that one. We'll just keep this on the queue here. And what was the other one? This is British Swiss 1 minute coming up into the 200 moving average. British CAD 5, here we go. This is the one we were just looking at. And that was a buy, I believe. Not seeing any arrows on that. Oh, here we go. British CAD arrow right here. 20 pips to the upside. There's a bounce, arrow go. You might be all right with this one up to this line right here, but it's got to get through that. It's going to have to get through this little zone right now. But that is a bounce, arrow go. That is a bag trade. Got it on the 5 minute, didn't get it on the 15. If you do take this as a bag trade, just be aware that you have this moving average coming. Everything's moving in the right direction. I think I don't think it's going to make it all in one straight move, though. I think it's probably going to bounce, probably maybe retest this trend line right here. Follow the moving averages. You have this blue moving average. I think if you can keep, as long as it can stay above this blue moving average, you may be able to catch it, but you may get some heat. It may come up and retest. If it retests, it's probably going to retest this area right in here. And that's about all I can say about it right now. Just keep an eye on it. If you're in it, if you're in it long, you're probably a little bit happier now if you got a good fill on it. CAD Swiss, let's see what that one looks like. That one's pretty much range bound right here. Check our averages. Pull the template up. Oh, let's see. Moving averages are looking pretty good. They look like they're in the right direction. Purple, green, yellow, blue, purple, and then into a green zone. So there's really no trade there as far as the arrow strategy trade goes, not until it breaks through the bottom of this one. Let's see if there's anything higher time frame down below. Just if it could break through this zone, and here would be the target. And that's only 13 pips. You probably wouldn't want to go for more than 5 on that one. Here's our strong move up. You're right in the middle of it. Here's the playground on this, right in here. Here's the upper 25. Here's the lower 25. You can see the lower 25 is right halfway between the 2 green zones. If it can break the 61, it'll probably head on down and maybe heading on down to the 76. Here's the upper zone. Here's the lower zone. You see it's right in the middle trying to decide. And it's been that way ever since last night. This zone right here is 14 pips and not enough room to take a trade. It's still range bound right now inside this 38 to 61 area. If it can break that, it'll probably come back down and retest this. The more it goes sideways, the deeper it's probably going to go once it breaks. But right now, you don't really know. This thing's kind of flatline. It's just range bound right now. Again, it's a Monday. This is what you see a lot on Mondays. No, take that one, put that one aside. And that was Cat Swiss we were looking at there. Let's see what this one's doing. This one broke through these are 3 blue lines, broke through that and just kept on going. So this one's just, did this one give us a 1 minute? I think someone gave us a 1 minute alert. It was back here at, let's see, that was around 7 o'clock, I guess, 7:08. Let's see where the heat map is on this one. Aussie's getting stronger. Aussie US, let's see. Aussie US. The US is weak right now. So anything against the US would be in the favor of, wouldn't trade against the US right at this point. How much would we have on that? See, that's only 6, even though it looks big on the 1 minute, that's only 6 pips from where we had the alert. It's only 6, that's 7 pips. You still be looking to try and get your target in there. So this just wasn't enough room for me to want to take the trade. I said, I want at least the ability to get, I want to see a 15 pip target and trying to get the 7 pips out of that. If I can only get 7, I'm not going to play around with it because of the spreads. Even though it may be working out, it's still not my trade. It's not my trade plan. Let's see, anything else here? Why a group today?
Well, not really. I've been answering a lot of questions.
Oh, okay. All right. Oh, good.
Like I said, just because you haven't seen it doesn't mean it's not happening.
Why know if I see them, then you guys just get a big old splotch on my screen.
Well, no, if I can answer them, I do, instead of interrupting you while you're instructing. That makes no sense.
Well, don't. If it's something that's worth us all hearing, don't hesitate to interrupt me, though. That would be okay.
Yeah. Oh, I do. Trust me.
Yeah.
I do.
Let's take a look at let's take a look at the German 30, and here's gold. I'm surprised nobody asked me about gold yet today.
Well, Bitcoin is pushing up. I think Bitcoin, crypto is the big deal today.
All right, good. Well, maybe they'll recover some of their losses here.
Yeah.
Or some of the pullback, I should say. It's not a lot. Again, it's not a loss unless you take the loss.
Exactly.
And so Gold is making its way. So gold's still hanging right there, just below 1900. Let's look at a higher time frame. Here's our daily gold. I prefer to look at gold more on a higher time frame, like the dailies, and see where it's at. I like this little move right down here. Here's a nice move down. You can see it sort of trended on down, came back down, made a low, made another low, and now it's starting to trend back up again. So I like this range right in here from this point to this point. Draw my moving averages before I forget to do that. You see everything's in the right direction. This is on a daily chart, so to project that this zone here could hold at 1935 is not out of the ordinary. You can see over here at this is back in January 6th. They made this 1950 high. Let's draw Fibonacci's from here. I like it I'll go from point to point, from here to here. You can see it's coming right up to the 76. See this little doji candle here, it came right up to the 76, bounced, came up to the 70, came up to 76, bounced. Right now it's trying to work its way through here. And so I'm going to draw those upper zones, draw my rectangles. See if we can come into that area. Again, here's my red zone, but this is my upper 25%. So keep that in mind. The rectangle down below. You can see where it's been hanging out a lot. It came back down. It's right into this 61 to 50 area. Change that color a little bit here.
Sean is saying that he thinks that gold may sell around 1900, 1942.
Yeah, that's probably not too far off the mark. I'd say probably right about in the middle between this 88 and 100% area. I mean, this is right where the zone is right here. The red zone is right here at 1935. Let me get these marked here. As it's been having a hard time breaking the 1950 area lately. Kind of gets up around close to that and then it pulls back again. If it breaks 1950, it's probably going to be heading up to 2000, which is where it was. It was last July that this thing was up to 22,000, 2100 with the gold. We're just about coming back to that time frame again this summertime. So let's go down to the lower time frame here. See what kind of a pullback we may get if you're trying to scalp this thing. Lots of green on that. You can see all the green on these zones. But here's a high, here's a lower high, here's a lower high, here's your trend line. There's a hit, here's a hit. And right now I'm going to use this. So right now this trend is holding. This one just got broken here, but you can see it went right up to the zone, could not close it. Now we have a trend line down below. This is the origin of the up move, pulled back, higher, pulled back, retested. And let's be looking at this trend line from here to here. And make it as tight as I can. And you can see where this was a little bit of a head fake. Here's our 61% moving average. Like right now, it's coming right on up to retest that upper zone. Now right now the price is at 1883, 1892. That's a $100 move to the upside. To that, this is where the 76 was. Okay, I have changed this here. think I missed something. There we go. I need to get this one down here. If we can get if it comes up here and we can get a bounce, a strong bounce, if it gets up into the zone, up around it could come up and test in 1900. If it comes up here, it pulls back out, looking for the retest, and we'd be looking to maybe take it short. But right now, this thing still has some push to the upside. Remember, gold is used a lot for the flight to safety. Cryptos are used a lot for the flight to safety. Right now, cryptos and gold are kind of battling out. Who's going to go use what for the flight, for the safety flight? One thing about the cryptos, it's a lot easier to exchange and actually spend than it is the gold. And if you actually have hard gold or silver, it's a little bit harder to actually use it for bartering and for a lot of retail stores are now taking cryptos for payment, which makes it a little bit more flexible for the commodities or for the retail business. And people like to be able to have liquidity. If you're holding gold bullion, you have to pretty much go to a gold dealer, exchange it into your currency, and then buy your product that you want. Cryptos is not quite that way, which makes it a lot easier for the. That's one reason why I kind of like cryptos for the retail, as people try to get away from the printing of the currencies that many countries are doing, not just ours, but others as well. It gives it a little bit more of a value to a perceived value.
Al?
But this little wick right here is it looks like this could be a little bit of a head fake. Come back down, retest here. Yes, Eva.
Do you have time to look at the S&P on the 5-minute?
Oh, I sure do. S&P 5-minute. Did you get an alert on that?
It was a request in the Q&A, so I'm not.
Okay. Okay. All right.
Oh yeah, it looks like, well, that was a while ago though, that.
Yeah, let's see, S&P, boy, S&P is kind of range bound. Did break out over here. This thing looks like it wants to go to the upside some more. Let's see where the whole thing is, where the range is. So the fact is in between, I'm looking at this pivot to this pivot. This was all the way back in the middle of May. The fact is, say, index, I'm going to use this one here. I'll use this zone to this zone. Right there. I'll draw this and then I will look at it at the lower time frame. I'll find out where my range is. A 15-minute, see what it looks like. Let me mark these others. There's a 61, 50. There's my overall range. Clean those off and see which way we want to try and trade this thing. Down, up. This is not what I call a real strong move. It's not. See how this angle, how this is like in. This thing dropped $38 in 12 candles. This one went up $34 in 58 candles. You can see the difference in the angles. So this one just sort of gradually working its way back up into this area. No strong commitments to anything. So I like to see a little bit more of the strong move down, retrace, and then go for the next target. I don't like this type of action right here. And let me see, I never did draw my Fibonacci's or my moving averages. Let me do it. I got after. I'm gonna lose my. I'll tell you what. Let me just do it this way. Tools, inserts, indicator, trend line, moving average. Draw the 200. Insert, indicator, moving average.
Trend.
And, where I'm trying to find my, oh, there it is, trend.
Yeah.
Thank you. Moving average. I keep it on exponential. I'm going to put this on to I'm going to get my 13 in here.
Can you explain the difference between the exponential and the simple?
The exponential will look at the last few candles closer than the overall range. So it gives more emphasis on the last part of the range of candles as opposed to the overall range of the candles. Just gives you a little bit more of it just puts more weight on the last part of it as opposed to the earlier part of it.
More data. Okay, now Mosen's asking if it would be possible to type up your Fibonacci levels. Like, you're just using the oh my gosh, the default ones, are you not? Fibonacci?
Yes, yeah, pretty much the default Fibonacci. I add a few that are in there that may not be a part of the default. We can take a look at that here in a second. Right now, everything, see this one, I'll get my this is my arrow. I want my 13 in there. Indicator, trend, moving average, 13. And that one's yellow. Those are the ones I look at the most, the yellow and the green one. Where'd it go? Where's my yellow? Did I do it wrong? Insert indicator, trend, moving average, 13 yellow. It's 200, okay, that's good. Hit it. There we go, yellow. And this one should be the green. There we go. Now I got my green, yellow. And when we're looking for set the Fibonacci, while we're at it here, I'll go to Insert, Indicator, Fibonacci, Retracement. Now I'll just put it over here for the, and if you go to the settings, Fibonacci properties, go to the Fib levels. These are all the default settings right here, pretty much. I have a 23.6, a 38.2, a 50, 61.8, into 100. Then I have the extensions, minus 38.2, minus 50. And these are when you put the levels in, you have to put it with a minus 0.382, minus 0.5. And then I just have the description of the 50 to 38. Come on down to then there's the minus 0.618. Then I have now these I added into it. This is not the standard. I've got an 11.8. Then they have the 76.4. The 88.2 is basically reciprocal. If you subtract 11.8 from 100, you got 88.2. And then the minus 100. Those are the extensions. And that's where you have draw this, and then you have the extensions for the targets.
Maybe they can take a snapshot of that, showing what you're looking at right there.
Let me expand it out here so you can see that. Just make sure that when you add the levels, you add the minus 0.768 or 764 minus 0.618. And then just put the description, just put minus 61.8 for your description. This is what you put for the description, what shows up on the chart. You can take a snapshot of that if you like. We're just about out of time here. So on this move on the upside, I said I'm not seeing a really strong move. You see, it's not ranging a great deal. Let's go even to a 1 minute chart. You'll see that the levels between these fib zones, from like the 38 to the 23, you're only looking at 6 pips when you get down to like a 1 minute chart. Now this was a nice strong move up from here. I like seeing this type of a move. And then I like seeing the pullback into I like seeing a 23% pullback. Now, this one didn't pull back to 23, but if I move this one up, keeps coming up, and now this one came back down into the 23, the 38. This was the pullback I'd be looking for. And then once it pulls back into and you start seeing the moving average, the screen crossing back over the yellow, that's when you try and jump in. And I like to try and catch it when it pulls back to the 38, can't close below the 50. I like to try and catch it as it comes through on the 23 to up here. That way, at least from when you get a pullback like this one, and if you can get this pullback here, a lot of times I'll do a buy stop here at the 23.6. So a buy stop, which basically means that once it comes back up through the 23, I'm in the trade and I'm looking at this for being my first target. But I want to make sure that I want to make sure that my ultimate target is at least 15 pips away, which in this case, if it pulls back to the 38 to 50, my ultimate target would be, and a lot of times you'll see a zone in this area. That would be my ultimate target. You see, if I can get in at the 23, there's my 20 pips. I only need 15. I can go halfway to that. But it also gives me the chance that from the 23 to it gets up to retest the 0 line, that would give me 9 pips. You can see it came back up to the 11.8, was retracing, but this trend line is still holding. You can almost take this thing to another, see what time is it? It's almost 9 o'clock. At this point, I'd wait and still see how the U.S. market opens up. This was a nice little move pre-market for the U.S. pre-market. It is following. Right now, it hasn't breached the blue moving average, which is the arrow moving average. Came down, tagged it, but it's made a lower high up here. This is actually forming a little bit of a wedge. And now we're waiting to see what's going to happen. So right now it's sort of range bound between inside the wedge. This was held. Here's an anchor. Here's a hit. The anchor generated this hit up here. Now, if it can break, this thing could start going to the downside. Maybe look at this area right in here. Then this would be the target zone, which is now right where your 200 moving average is. And you have 3 other areas for it to come back down and consolidate. If it breaks this bottom trend line, I'd be looking at a close below the 38, small pullback, target of the 50. Close below the 50, small pullback, target of the 61. Close below the 61, you could be looking at this thing to bounce off of this area. Right now it's range bound, nothing to trade right now. If it does break to the upside, and if we look and see where the US dollar is, as we wrap this thing up today. The US dollar is weak on the 15. It's weak on the 30. As the US dollar is weak, I look at the stock market, the index is being stronger. So in this case, I would still favor it to the upside. But that's all liable to change in another 30 minutes when the US market opens up. So you have to be aware about that. Any last minute questions before we go today? Anybody still hear me, or did I lose my headset? Okay, let me switch earbuds. And can anybody hear me? Eva?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah, sorry,
Christine?
I just moved my desk. Christine's gone for the day. Did you hear me?
I do. I hear you now. Okay,
Oh.
now I got you back.
Okay.
Okay, all right. We lost had a slight interruption there. I get about an hour and a half on each earbud, and that's about all it goes. And then I got to remember to change it out. So anyway, we're just about done here. Any last minute questions?
Eden's just want to answer. There is no 9 a.m. session on Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, my friend.
Yeah, that's right. And even then, I think they're trying to get that worked out to where they're actually getting them covered, but I haven't heard anything definitive about that. So anyway, we're about done here for the day. Not much. There's a sell on the gold that just popped up, 15-minute gold sell. Let's take a look at that real quick since we have a little bit of time here. Gold sell, strong move down. Here's the, oh boy, this is why we didn't want to take it long. Okay, so right now we're still in the range bound. Had that little wick up, sell. Where was our zones here? I'm going to look at the 15-minute. Here's the move up on the 15-minute. Draw this one out.
Rashawn, your idea was good. It actually turned a little earlier than what we thought, though, right?
Yeah, well, I had that little head fake. This is what I call that trap that pops up, can't close below, and now it's just starting to give it up. But now we have this. There could be another trap down here. Here's our 200 moving average. It's bouncing off that. Well, let's just see. Is it still range bound between inside here? Right now, there's really no trade on it, even with that arrow, because you have a zone right below. But though this could be a little bit of that bank induction where this thing could be going to the downside, but this is just one thing. I just try to stay away. This gold kind of messed up I saw it a good week last week, but it did some damage to my performance last week. But nice move down, but look, it's coming right into this moving average. So I don't like that for, and we drew the zones. This is off of the 15-minute chart. I got the 15-minute chart up here. These are 15-minute zones here. This is the upper 25. Here's the lower 25, which is right over in this area. You can see where this came back down, bounced off the 61, came up, crossed the 50, went up to the 38, crossed the 38, went up to the 23, found the zone, and now it's trying to figure out what it's going to do in the meantime. So it's really kind of range bound right now. There, there, and this one right here. When you see this 200 moving average, this purple one, you can pretty well, as long if you see a big move down to that, you can pretty well expect. You see how this candle came down, wick down, couldn't close it. This one did close, but couldn't close below the wick, and then it took off again. Here's where my moving averages crossed over. Take this on a 1-minute chart and see where the moving averages are. I like looking at least the 5 or the 1 minute when I'm actually looking for a direction. We do have all the crosses, not quite complete. It's still sort of consolidating. Go to a 1 minute chart. Now we have the green, yellow arrow, and then the 62. See how this thing came right down, whipped right to the 50 and gave it up. So it's, again, it's kind of range bound between here and here. That's $4 move. Remember, you have to look at that says 440 on the range here. And so you're looking at, move that over 2 decimal places to $4.38 move difference. And now it's starting to go back up again. Too unpredictable for me. So with that, thanks everybody for coming in. Have a safe day, safe weekend. See you tomorrow, same time. And hopefully we'll have, I think Jackie will probably be in Tuesday at 9 o'clock. She's generally there unless she has some other problems conflicting with it. And don't be in a hurry to take trades today. It's Monday. You've got all week to do it. All you need is a couple good trades a week and you're profitable for the week. And then you can have a life on the side. With that, take care and we'll see you tomorrow.
Okay, everybody, have a great day and we'll see you all tomorrow.